Hello painters and crafters, welcome to my first video tutorial series on how to make Underdark Cavern tiles. So we're going to start off with some 1-inch expanded XPS foam, and I've got two pieces cut the same size. And first thing I'm going to do is take some blue tack and take a couple pieces, and this is going to help hold them together. Now, if you do want to do a gridded tile, you'll want to go ahead and mark out your grid on the bottom piece. But I do ungridded, so don't need to worry about that. So we're just going to line them up, stick them together, press real hard, and we're ready to go. Alright, so now I'm going to take a ruler and a pen, and I decided to go with 3-inch doorways on my tiles. So what I do is I mark out 4 inches, and then I come back in and do ½ an inch on each side. So that should leave a 3-inch gap in the middle. And then what I did is I just took a piece of cardstock and made a little template. So now I don't have to measure it every time. Just turn it to a new side, set it where I want it, and make the 4 marks. And this is going to indicate where your walls will be. So next up, we start on one of the outer lines and connect it clockwise to the next outer line. And we go around until all of them are connected. So with this particular tile, we're going to go all the way around back to that first side. And once you've done all the outers, then you connect all the inners. And I basically just roughly go for ½ inch thick. You don't want to go too thin, or else the walls might be a little too fragile. But I think ½ inch thick should be pretty sturdy. I'm just eyeballing it. Definitely no need to be exact. The only thing that really matters is you want where the initial marks were made. You want those to line up. So you're connecting the smaller wall here. Just like that. Alright, so we're going to our Proxxon wire cutter. You could do this with a handheld. I haven't actually tried it, but it should work. So now we're just cutting along the outer wall. And you want to make sure with your cut that you do follow the line where your original marks are. Other than that, you don't really have to be too exact. You really don't even have to draw the lines out if you want. As long as they end up where you started, then it doesn't really matter. And don't go too thin. There's our basic shape. Now, separate the 2 layers. Set the bottom one aside. And then now you're just going to cut out the actual wall pieces using the inner lines. once again, just try to keep it to at least half an inch thick and try to make sure that you end up on your original lines. There's the first piece. See there, I went a little bit thicker. But thicker is better than thinner. Just take your time. Make sure it lines up with your initial line. So there's our second wall piece. Now at this point you're going to want to take a balled up tin foil and roll it around on the bottom piece to add texture. I forgot to do that, so I'm going to have to go back and do it later. It's just much easier if you do it before you put the walls on. So there we have our walls lined up. We've got some wood glue, and we're going to use that to attach the walls. Don't need a lot, just kind of dab it on, and then I like to take a old paintbrush and just brush it so it's nice and smooth and it gets really good coverage. Then I take a little more, add it to the bottom piece. And we'll brush that on smooth. And we just take our piece, line it up. Kind of slide it around a little. This will make a really, really good bond. So just go around, make sure everything's flush. Push it down. And as long as you don't bump it, it should not move. And here we will repeat the same process with the smaller piece. And you're going to want to let this dry probably at least 3 or 4 hours. Just kind of check it, make sure it's not wiggling at all if you try to move it. Everything's lining up nicely. So now we will let that dry. And here I can come back and try to do the texturing with the foil ball. Like I said, it's much easier if you do this before you put the walls on. Alright, so now we've got our matte Mod Podge and some black craft paint. This awesome idea was originally from Jeremy at Black Magic Craft. And I found it easiest if you brush on the inner walls and the floors first. It's much less messy if you go in this order. Then you go to the outer walls. And then you can set it down and do the tops. So I did not do this on the bottoms, but you certainly could once everything else is dry. So here you have it dry, and then we've got some apple barrel pewter gray craft paint. I've got two different kinds of sponges here. One is just a small with kind of a rounded end, and this works really well for doing the inner walls. Then I'll go to my bigger sponge to do the floor. And the outer walls, same order as we did before. Helps if you kind of bend the sponge to get into the recesses a little bit. And the tops. Alright, now I've got some apple barrel purple iris, but any darker purple will work. And we're just gonna kind of do the same thing. Definitely don't use as much purple as you did gray. We want to give it a purple look, but not really make the tile purple. And if you don't like the purple look, you could always use 2 or 3 different shades of brown after the gray. Now we've got some lilac mist purple, or any other light purple. And this we're going to dry brush on. We're trying to get most of the paint off the brush. We don't want this to be really pronounced. It's just a nice little highlight. If you went with the browns instead of the purples, you would just use a light gray here. Alright, so now I've taken another page from Blackmagic Craft and sprayed with some Minimax satin finish polyurethane. Gives it a nice little sheen and helps protect it even more. So here we have an example of some of the tiles set up. You can see I've taken some scrap pieces to make those little dividers. And you can use blue tack to stick those on so they don't slide around during gameplay. And I'm just going to show you how you can move them around, line them up multiple ways. In some upcoming videos, I'll be showing you how to make the mushrooms and the stalagmites. Yeah, that's pretty much the system. Yeah, I'm pretty happy with it. It's very reminiscent of the original DM's Craft style Cavern tiles, just with a little more 3D element. But hope you guys like the video. See you next time.